Hello neighbors, Akibataku here. Now recently I got myself a new gaming system called the Xbox One because I heard it was the next big thing in the gaming community, considering the fact that right now, gaming online is the next big trend and I don't want to miss out on it. But the weird part is, this thing cost me around $500, which is strange because considering the fact that the previous system, the Xbox 360, cost less than $300 and oh yeah, that exists!
The Xbox 360, one of the best-selling video game consoles of all time, and for good reasons. It had good games, it was cheap, played in HD, it has online capabilities, and it is 15 years old. God, you feel old yet? Yeah, in another 5 years' time, the Xbox 360 will be considered as a retro console, which is strange because the launch of the 360 back on November 22nd, 2005 felt like it only happened yesterday when it was fighting the PS3. So that begs the question, how well does the 360 hold up 15 years later?
I personally have never grew up with the Xbox 360. Back then in Malaysia, gaming was still a very foreign concept, so on a nostalgia factor, I can't really share much. But I can still feel the impact of the Xbox 360 even after all of these years in gaming history. So on this video, we're gonna take a look at exactly what is this impact the Xbox 360 has left on us. But before we can get back on it, we must figure out how well the Xbox 360 did for these past 15 years.
It was November 22nd, 2005. The 6 generations of video gaming was coming to an end. Microsoft was about to give a big blow of a punch with its new hardware, the Xbox 360, and they want everyone to know. The PS3 was the laughing stock of the internet. It was $600, it had no games, the console looks funky, it was $600. Ken Kutaragi, the creator of the PlayStation 3, said that at one point, the PS3 was not a game system but a supercomputer.
Yeah, that's nice and all, Mr. Kutaragi, but I don't want to watch politics, I want to play video games.
This gave Microsoft a big advantage to take. Many developers soon jumped ship to the 360, and as a result, many PS3 exclusives became 360 exclusives. This is also why many games look worse on the PS3 than the 360, because the 360 was easy to program for, but the PS3 is like renting a girlfriend. It was difficult to get along with. It was clear, if you want a game system, you get the Xbox 360. If you want a robotic Kardashian, you get the PS3. Not to mention that the Xbox 360 has 1 whole year to create an audience, and create that audience they did.
Yes, the moment we've been waiting for is here. Adam is down at Best Buy in the Mojave Desert to witness the sale of the first Xbox 360.
The 360 was the hot gaming console. I mean, sure, the Wii was a thing, but we don't talk about the Wii. The 360 also was a DVD player, but nobody bothered to watch DVDs. That was the purpose of the PS2. We bought the 360 to play video games, damn it. There were so many good games coming around the corner, like Portal 2, Batman Arkham City, Mirror's Edge, Tomb Raider, Titanfall, Final Fantasy. It was clear that the 360 is a gaming powerhouse. So naturally, nothing can go wrong, right? Right? As things were looking good for Microsoft, many reports coming in about a certain hardware failure that caused the system to stop functioning completely. The main problem was the fact that the motherboard was overheating and just dies on you. The result is the infamous red ring of death.
Ah, the red rings of doom signal that your Xbox 360 is fried. Microsoft hasn't specified the cause, but users say the console's cooling system just can't take the heat of a lot of plague.
Microsoft was wise enough to call out a worldwide recall that cost around $1.15 billion. I don't even know Microsoft can take the hit. Normally, a worldwide recall at this cost would normally just bankrupt a company, but Microsoft had the deep pockets to take the hit. So yeah, it was not all sunshines and rainbows for the 360. The PS3 was starting to pick up momentum too with games like Uncharted, but then Microsoft had to create one of the biggest gaming launches in history.
I know you. Past. Future. This is the way the world ends.
super sucklord out here on the corner of 44th and 5th Avenue here in New York City for the midnight release of Halo 3.
The launch day of Halo 3 was one of the biggest events in gaming history. People were gathering in the middle of the night for the launch of one of the latest Halo games, and Bill fucking Gates was there at Best Buy to sell the first copy?
Bill fucking Gates selling video games? Why wasn't I invited?
The glory of Halo 3 has been talked to death on the internet, and I can't do it justice alone. What you need to know is that Halo 3 was a pretty big deal, and more games were coming to the 360, like BioShock or Mass Effect. But after that...
You ever wonder what the bottom of an Avatar shoe looks like? Well, bam! There it is.
Things went kinda flat. And no, things are not as flat as my little sister.
But that will not be that wrong.
The thing is, Microsoft just suddenly shift from the gaming market to the casual market, and that ain't a wise move. They saw the success of the Wii with their motion controls, and as a result, the Wii sold over 100 million units. So Microsoft tried the same strategy with the KINECT, which is a motion detecting camera. While good in concept, tell me, look at this.
Whoa, look at those mermaids! Dark waterfall! Whoa. Oh no, Captain Hook! Whoa.
Do you really want to get involved in that?
The KINECT, while it did sell well, it was nothing more than a gimmick, and the Xbox user base was getting sick of it. They wanted more games, not home entertainment. And that's how it ended. An embarrassment. Microsoft came in third place after the PS3 and the Wii, and while they did not win, 84 million copies is nothing to scoff at.
So this is practically the entire life of the Xbox 360. Not really the heroic tale Microsoft was envisioning, but it still left a pretty big legacy that has yet to be forgotten. So that begs the question, how well does that legacy stood up after 15 years? Well, let's take a look.
Now I'm gonna be the devil's advocate and say that this is one sexy looking game console. One of my biggest gripes with modern gaming consoles is that their design, they are made to look like TV boxes and not gaming consoles. The 360 makes it painfully obvious that yes, this is a gaming console and I like it. The slim hourglass design, the holes, the white plastic, every little details gives it character. But of course, this thing has problems. The white plastic is notoriously brittle. Common broken spots include this front cover. But to be fair, nobody cares that there is a controller cover right there, so we don't need to worry about it. These fat models also do not have Wi-Fi built in, meaning you have to use Ethernet cables to play online. And early versions of the console don't use HDMI, but use AV cables. Or more specifically, the core model of the console. I got the arcade model, which includes an HDMI port. The Elite console also have this exact same port, but another problem is that the hard drive, the arcade model only has 250 megabytes built in.
Why?
250 megabytes, you can only play like 3 games on it. Luckily, however, I can forgive this because the 360 has the ability to swap out hard drives. These things are crazy cheap nowadays, and I got a 120GB model. Hell, right now there are even terabyte versions of the hard drives. Luckily, however, many of these problems are fixed with the newer model, the Xbox 360 Slim. This thing has a sturdier construction, built-in Wi-Fi, built-in hard drives, and it is definitely the ideal console to get. And while yes, the Slim model is definitely way better, I chose the fat model. Primarily because it looks way more sexier. So sexy in fact, they turned the Xbox 360 into an anime girl.
Her name is Vert, or Greenheart from the Hyperdimension Neptunian series.
She is famous for being the only cast member to have a big tits. The joke is that the 360 is a thick console.
Get it?
But of course, we must address the elephant in the room, the Red Ring of Death. The Red Ring of Death plagued many systems from overheating. Many said that the fat model has this problem and the slim model is Red Ring free, which is not true whatsoever. Not only is the slim model actually vulnerable to the Red Ring of Death, albeit not that commonly, but the fat model is also actually somewhat safe from it. In the fat model, there are 3 types of motherboard. the Xeon, the Falcon, and the Jasper. You can identify which motherboard is which by looking at the power cable. And whatever you do, always go for the Jasper cable. It is built to cure the Red Ring of Death. The Xeon and the Falcon is practically dead the moment you take it out of the box. And of course, being a 7th generation gaming console comes with the problem of region locking. My console is the PAL version of the console, meaning it can only play PAL and NTSC games, and not NTSC-J games. There's also the Xbox 360E, but look at me in the eye and tell me you want this thing. Overall, despite all of the doom and gloom, the Xbox 360 is still surprisingly playable 15 years later. The majority of the console models use HDMI, which means you don't have to use any adapter and just plug it into the TV. The hard drive on both the slim and fat model is very easily customizable, and some people even sell hard drives with games in it.
You know, for losers.
And one of the most defining games about the Xbox 360 is that it pioneered online gaming. It uses Xbox Live, and Microsoft still supports it after all these years, meaning you can still go online and play with your friends. Sure, there is the Red Ring of Death, but just get either the Jasper model or the Slim model and you should be fine. And the Fat model is highly customizable, for there are many accessories like a Wi-Fi adapter and such. Overall, despite being 15 years old, hardware-wise, it is most definitely stood the test of time. Also, it plays DVDs. Nobody cares!
Moving on.
Now, this is where the 360 really shines. One thing people complain about collecting old video game consoles is that the controller would often feel really outdated and uncomfortable. But that's where the 360 gets you. The layout of the controller practically became the default layout for gaming controllers. The thing feels really solid, the buttons are front to press, the triggers are shaped in a way where your fingers push it without slipping out. This was also when wireless controllers really became standard for video gaming, and the thumbsticks feels really smooth. However, the controller does have problems. The D-pad on the controller feels really counterintuitive and not really fun to spam with. The headphone jack is 2.5mm instead of the usual 3.5mm.
Why?
Now all of this I can forgive, but what I cannot forgive is the battery source. At the beginning, they used standard AA batteries to power the controller, and eventually they released proper battery packs for the controller. Now, unlike most people, I can actually overlook this problem. Well, for one, we don't know if these 360 battery packs were still being made over time, and the AA batteries will definitely made for another century or two. So in the event that one day the 360 batteries are stopped being made, the AA batteries will come in and save the day. But the problem is that the public is still somehow oblivious to the problems of battery corrosion. So many used 360 controllers suffer from battery corrosion because apparently people are too lazy to take out the batteries once they are done with it after 15 years. And after that 15 years, all of the acid leaks like hell. I managed to clean out most of the corrosion with lemon juice, but even then the wireless function no longer works, which means you will have to get a wire adapter, which works alright. But overall, even after all of these problems, the 360 controllers still stood the test of time.
What's that? Oh yeah, the KINECT controller. Yeah, that's a wireless camera tracking device for the Xbox 360. Yeah, that existed. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Of course, the gaming console itself is worthless without video games, and you know it has games. The Xbox 360 was not famous for being a DVD player, it is famous for being a video game system. You're taking notes down, Matrick?
Watch TV. It's TV. TV and TV remote. TV experience.
Okay, we need to get this out of the way. We cannot talk about the Xbox 360 without talking about Halo 3. Halo 3 was a big deal back then. Everybody was talking about Halo 3 and they knew it was coming.
There'll be lots of happy gamers waiting to see when the third game with Master Chief's released. The White House has been alerted, all the streets will be deserted when Bungie finally gives us Halo 3.
Hell, even Bill fucking Gates himself was there at Best Buy to sell the very first copy of Halo 3. That's how big of a deal it was. Halo 3 was so ambitious, this fucking thing happened.
Oh my god, wait! Wait!
I can talk on and on and on about how good Halo 3 was, but really the internet speaks for itself. To quickly summarize it, fun action, great gameplay, great characters, amazing mechanics, good story, and many more. If you're getting the Xbox 360, you must get the Halo 3. The Xbox 360 also have other amazing games like Batman Arkham City, Mirror's Edge, Portal 2, Tomb Raider, Mass Effect series, the list can go on. And remember, this was the 7th generation of video games, meaning that this was still the time where companies like EA or Bethesda had still good games before they became the monster they are now. What's even better is that during this generation, new IPs were still being pushed out.
One of the new IPs that I hold close to my heart is the entire Mass Effect trilogy. These things have a strong storyline, great gameplay, and the characters are really enduring. And no, there is no such thing as Mass Effect Andromeda.
And plus, this is the Xbox we are talking about. Used games are dirt cheap. And oh yeah, Minecraft was the thing. It kinda blew up on the Xbox 360. And if you really don't want to get physical media, you can always just go to Xbox Live and download all of the games.
If you're a fucking idiot.
And of course, with the creation of Xbox Live, and the fact that the 360 solidified it, meaning now people from all over the world can connect and play games together. This was the first time this was been done properly. Not even PlayStation Network can do this right. This caused friends and communities to be formed, and people are still playing it to this very day because Microsoft still supports Xbox Live. So it looks like things can't go wrong, right? Well, there's just one small problem. Seeing how this is the 7th generation of video gaming, region locking is still a problem. This also limits the user's ability to get new games, and the 360 is no exception. The 360 have 3 regions, PAL, NTSC, and NTSCJ. My console can only play PAL games, which means it's a pain in the ass, because now, whenever I go through find new games I desperately wanted, I only come back to find out that the game is not region compatible.
Ah, fuck.
But this is all made up for the fact that the Xbox 360 have amazing games and a great online user base, so even after 15 years, the Xbox 360 games still stands.
So final verdict, does the Xbox 360 hold up after 15 years later? Well, surprisingly, yeah it does. But that does not answer the real question. What is the legacy of the Xbox 360? Well,
for years now, living in Malaysia, there's always been the stigma against video games that they were made to poison children to waste their time, and it's for that reason my parents always refused to get me a gaming console. For years, I always feel envious towards gamers for all the fun they can have, and many of my friends feel the same way. We wanted to play video games together, but we never got the chance. Fast forward after all of these years, and now I have the liberty to get my own Xbox 360 so I can find out for myself what made a lot of people gravitate towards it. And when I finally pushed the on button, it was only then I realized what I have missed out on for 15 years. When I first loaded up the disc tray, I realized then the Xbox 360 is not just a gaming console. It is a time capsule of a generation. It was a time for gamers to finally be connected and play a match of TF2. It was a time to learn drifting in Forza. It was a time to survive the apocalypse in Left 4 Dead. It was a time to explore the galaxy with Mass Effect. It was a time to learn physics with Portal. It was a time to explore worlds in Red Dead Redemption. It was a time to save humanity in Gears of War. It was a time for people to have fun. And to me, that's the legacy of the Xbox 360. Fun. And even after 15 years later, there are still people filling up Minecraft servers. People still playing Halo 3. People keeping the legacy alive. Because to people, the Xbox 360 was a generation's worth of memories and new ones are being created every day. And even though the final days of the Xbox 360 was not the heroic journey Microsoft envisioned, we all still had our memories and fun.
so Microsoft, I must say, thank you for giving us this beautiful legacy that still holds up after 15 years. And even after that 15 years, the Xbox 360 is super dope. Wow, the Xbox 360 was awesome. Surely the successor, the Xbox One, will be even better. I mean, clearly after 15 years of success, Microsoft will learn a few things about the gaming community and improve on everything upon the 360. Surely the Xbox One will be just as awesome.
Introducing Xbox One.
If you cannot bring your big guns, if you cannot bring the good stuff to your reveal, don't do the reveal!
I have so many pieces of paper here with highlighting on what Microsoft is fucking up. This is an enormous amount of paper.
Yes.
No one's gonna be called Xbox One because you're not gonna have any friends because the only person you're gonna be talking to is that damn Xbox.
Do you want a set-top box or do you want a game machine?
No use games! No trading games!
Who the fuck wants to?
No lending games on the new Xbox!